Welcome back to the latest episode of the Flex Success podcast, where we teach you how to be less shit. As always, we will be your co-hosts. I'm Lizzy, and this is Dean.
Now, if you find value in this episode, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, and drop a comment below on YouTube. Share us with your friends, give us a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast app, and if you want to take a screenshot and tag us on Instagram, just do that by putting in @flex_success.
And while you're on Instagram, you can check out everything we offer, from our ebooks to courses and programs. You can book a consultation or inquire about coaching via the link in our bio, or you can do that on our website.
Enjoy the episode.
Hey guys, what's up? We are in Portugal. I think the last time we did an episode without a guest, we were just leaving England, and we've been in Portugal now a couple of weeks. Spent some time in Lisbon, which is the capital of Portugal, which was sick, wasn't it?
Lisbon's cool.
Lisbon is...
I could definitely live in Lisbon.
Yeah.
Or Lisboa.
Yeah, they call it Lisboa.
Actually, yeah. Lisboa.
Oh, so their language has a lot of Spanish influence, and Spanish from Spain has a lot of sh in it, like como estás, not como estás. It's not
and
as
then
nice.
They also have Arabic influence in some of their pronunciations.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. Yeah, so they say, what is it, Lisboa or some shit?
Yeah, Lisboa.
And we're in Lagos, which is pronounced Lagos.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we spent 2 weeks there. We've been a few days now in Lagos. We're here for another at least month.
We've been here a week.
Have we?
Yeah, we got here on Tuesday.
God damn.
So we've been in Portugal for about 3 and a bit weeks.
Yeah, and I can get down with Portugal. It's pretty cool.
There is no beanie on thy face.
No, it's warm here.
Which was the last time that we said this will be the last beanie, so I nostalgically wore the beanie.
Yeah.
I actually have worn the beanie here once.
Have you?
Purely just out of comfort, just to make me feel nice and safe.
Okay.
And this is new for those that are looking at home, although don't look at this one.
Yeah, if anybody's watching on YouTube, fantastic. But as this is an audio platform, that was silly. Dean has decided on 3 nails that he finds the most special, and he's painting them midnight blue.
With the advice of a friend from Instagram to put a matte top coat on them.
So it's not as shiny, because shiny isn't very masculine. Is that what you're taking?
Yeah, I don't know, but I like it. The matte has worked. I like it.
Anyways, guys, we have, I hope, a killer episode for you today. We're going to try and keep it to like 30 minutes. I don't know, maybe we thought we'd throw you some shorter ones. And we were going to talk about...
What are we going to talk about, Liz?
Don't act like it's a surprise. We prepared for it before we pressed record. We're going to talk about types of hunger. And this is one of the video lessons from block 3 of the Better Bodies program. Now, within the Better Bodies program, we have 6 blocks. The first one being nutrition, the second one being training, the third one being hunger and cravings management. So this is one of the lessons, and we're going to talk about types of hunger, how to measure hunger, and how we can use type and measurement to guide our decision-making when it comes to food.
Because the Better Bodies program is all about sustainable transformations.
Yeah.
And one of the things that people typically struggle with the most is this sort of managing hunger, managing cravings. They do all right for a period of time when they're doing the weight loss portion, but then the sustainability portion, a lot of the time they become unstuck. So
yeah, totally. Well, actually, within the video lesson that I'm sort of taking inspiration from for this podcast, I pulled some research that shows that one of the biggest indicators of managing weight loss long term, so like sustainable weight loss, is hunger management. So people that are just really hungry, maybe they might halve the amount of food they're eating, which then halves their calories. That's great. They lose weight, but they can't maintain just like eating half forever. It's the people that actually manage their hunger or have lower perceived levels of hunger that are more successful. So it's very important.
Blowing information that being hungry all the time is probably not sustainable.
No, and I think at first when we're feeling really motivated and we're really willing to suffer a little bit, it works, but like that only works for so long.
So
yes,
2 types of hunger we're going to talk about today. One being hedonic, one being homeostatic. Do you want to break that down for the listeners? No, rock and roll.
Okay, so we spoke about this also in the Untangling Fat Loss ebook. So if anybody has that ebook and has read chapter 1, this will sound familiar. We have 2 main types of hunger. Of course, we can also talk about like emotional hunger and things like that. But the 2 main types are homeostatic hunger, which is physiological hunger. This usually comes on every few hours. It builds slowly. It comes with an uncomfortable feeling in our stomach. And any food will satisfy this type of hunger. If I'm homeostatically hungry, homeostatically hungry, it's a big word, Dean. It's a big word.
2 words.
Yeah, it's true. Well, hunger is not the word I'm talking about here. I could either have, rice and chicken, or I could have fish and broccoli, and that would satisfy the hunger. And we want to think of this on a scale, right? Not as a light switch. It's this type of hunger or that type of hunger. On the other end of the scale spectrum, we've got hedonic hunger. And this is to do with pleasure eating. I might be physiologically hungry. I might not be. I could be hedonically hungry right after dinner. I really feel like chocolate now. I feel like some sort of dessert. It doesn't come on every few hours. It can come on at any interval of time. Not any food will do. If I feel like chocolate, eating broccoli will not satisfy that hunger. And we can be a mix of the two. I can feel physiologically or homeostatically hungry, but also be craving pizza. So there can be some overlap as well, which is why they exist on a spectrum, because they can be in the middle.
Yeah. So hedonic is like the drive for something specific, whether that specific be a particular type of food, a saltiness, a sweetness, or whatever it may be. Homeostatic being more like controlled via rhythm, in that we have circadian rhythms that control homeostatic hunger just based on eating frequency, if it's consistent, and also obviously the physical hunger in that your stomach is actually empty.
Yeah, exactly.
I think they're really important to have a clear distinction between the two, because it allows people to then have the capability, or at least the opportunity, to have some internal discussion around what is it that I'm currently feeling, which is where a lot of people, again, come unstuck. They don't really think about it or even know.
Yeah, maybe they sort of like subconsciously, they're like, I'm kind of hungry, and they just reach for food. So we're going to talk about a few other things, but this is definitely a starting place. When you feel hungry, what type of hungry am I? Am I homeostatically hungry? Or, like, simply put, you could say, am I physically hungry, maybe? Or do I have a craving? Am I hedonically hungry? Right. So that would be a good place to start. It's worth mentioning, though, that we're not yes or no. We're not like hungry or not hungry. We're not like hedonically hungry or not, or homeostatically hungry or not. It also, everything exists on a spectrum. Maybe we should be spectrum nutrition, not flex success. Hunger isn't a light switch. Hunger is a dimmer, perhaps. And we can, when we go ahead and decide, okay, I'm this hungry or I'm that hungry, hedonic or homeostatic, we want to go ahead and measure them, because, as I said, it's not a light switch. So where do we sit? Normally, when people say, how hungry am I? They might think of a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like super hungry, 1 being not hungry at all. But actually, I much prefer the hunger scale, which is pulled from not informed eating.
That's ours again.
That is ours. What are you called?
I was going to say informed eating straight away too, then, but intuitive eating.
Oh, intuitive eating, right? It's pulled from the intuitive eating framework. And it is a 1 to 10 scale, but 5 means you're neutral. You're neither full nor hungry. You're just neutral. And as we get to 10, we get really full. And as we get to 1, we get super starving. So I really like to scale or measure hunger this way, because it helps us decide when to eat or if to eat. Because if you think, I'm kind of hungry. Okay, where do I exist on the scale? Oh, I'm actually a 5. I just walked past a bakery and it smelled good. I'm not really hungry. Then that might help you make a decision.
And what are some of the cues that they're thinking about in this?
I don't know.
Is in like a gurgling stomach, the feeling of emptiness, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I suppose like 1 would be like so hungry that you could eat your own arm off and you just feel like gorging yourself. Whereas like a 4 hungry, because 5 is neutral, so 4 is just getting hungry, would be like, I could start to eat. A 3 is like, I'm pretty hungry. So we want to wait until we're like maybe a 2 or a 3, maybe a 3 or a 4. And we only want to eat up to like a 6 or a 7, which is like getting full, pretty full. We don't want to get to the point of like an 8 or a 9 out of 10, which is uncomfortably full. We can talk about how to measure cravings in a moment, but it's worth mentioning that the hunger scale has some limitations too. If you're weight neutral, meaning you don't really care what your weight is, then the hunger scale doesn't really have any limitations. We should start eating when we're pretty hungry and stop eating when we feel satisfied. But if you're someone who's already quite lean and you want to get leaner again, this can get difficult because your body goes through something called negative metabolic adaptations, which is a super fancy way of saying your body's trying to stop you from starving to death and is making you hungrier more often. It's increasing your food behaviors. Food tastes better. It smells better. You just want to eat more. You're thinking about food all the time.
Yes.
So eating to the hunger scale, if you're already quite lean and trying to get leaner, isn't always such a good idea. It still has some use, but we might want to start eating when we're a little bit more than just a bit hungry and stop eating before we are quite full. Maybe we want to stop eating at satisfied. And maybe we want to just ignore our hunger sometimes, just push through. So there definitely are some limitations.
There are absolutely times that are necessary for you just
to
deal with the hunger.
Yeah. The people that we're teaching the hunger scale to in the Better Bodies program aren't competitive athletes who are trying to get on stage Dick Skin Lean. They're sort of like, fitness enthusiasts, everyday health nuts, where the hunger scale is more appropriate, because most of the people in the Better Bodies program are, not so much like Dean when he was a competitive bodybuilder, but maybe Dean now when he's just like living a kind of fairly normal life.
It's absolutely now I'm relying far more heavily on that.
Yeah.
Than what I am, than what I was during contest
internal
prep.
cues.
Contest prep, I was just relying on more so the mathematical equation of dieting. And it was that. I'm hungry, too bad. Yeah. Whereas now it's kind of like, I can eat or I cannot eat. It's up to me. I determine when that's, within my goals still of having some form of weight maintenance at my new weight that I've found, not obviously my stage weight. And yeah, it's a really interesting experience, I think, for people to go through, but a very necessary one, especially if someone's tracked macros before too and hasn't been so reliant on hunger cues.
Is the process, you mean like learning about their hunger cues?
Yeah, learning and trying to have some introspection around, like, what does it feel like to be a 5, a 4, a 3? What does it feel like? Am I actually, like, for example, in the post-com phase, it's very easy to get to a 9 when you're eating.
Yeah.
Because you're seeking this overabundance of food and you want to feel like you've indulged because it's been so long. And learning to sort of, I suppose, like, consciously tap into that and go, all right, this is a 9. I don't need to be at a 9. I just need to be at a 7, and a 7's okay.
Yeah, I should have eaten a bit less or eaten slower.
Yeah, a 7's like wrapping yourself in a warm blanket. A 9 is like burying yourself underneath the bed. It's not even that comfortable. You've just gone way too hard.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about how to measure hedonic hunger, which we could call cravings. Now, this exists on, I like to call it the cravings thermometer. So it doesn't exist on a scale as much as it does a thermometer, with 1 being like you don't have the craving for it at all, 10 being it's extreme. But what we want to do, I think this was Chelsea's idea, was to chop out the 7. Because if I have a craving, if I'm like, oh, I feel like some chocolate, and I'm like, okay, on a thermometer of 1 to 10, how much do I feel like the chocolate? If I'm not really sure, it's easy to land on a 7, right? Because a 7's like, it's not really low, it's not really high. Like, what do you do with a 7? I don't know.
It's the number that everyone goes to when you say choose a number between 1 and 10. It's like, it's not in the middle, it's not the end, somewhere in between.
It's your favorite number.
It's my favorite number for different reasons.
I think it's weird how people have favorite numbers, can I just say?
Mine was only because I was a fanboy of David Beckham and he was number 7. So
okay.
And then as a soccer player, you used to fight over numbers for some weird reason.
Did you?
Yeah, there's like this. Yeah. Anyway, sidetrack.
Okay.
Damn fools.
So we can cross out the 7 and we can scale our cravings an 8 or above, which we would consider, 8 being high, 9 very high, 10 extreme, or a 6 or below. And a 6 is like, a moderate craving, and it just goes down from there. 1 being like, I do not feel like it at all. So if I say, I have a craving, because craving is for something sweet, maybe chocolate. How do I rate this craving? Well, it's not moderate, like I'm salivating and I can't stop thinking about it. It's probably an 8, right? Or I might think, oh, I feel like chocolate. Not really though, only like a 6. I can definitely deal. I'm not really thinking about it that much. If I'm trying to reduce my calorie intake, it would be wise for me to just move on from cravings that are a 6 or below. But if I have a craving that's an 8 or above, I have 3 choices. I can either choose to urge surf it. And I've spoken about urge surfing on a previous podcast, but if you haven't listened to it, like a really quick wrap up of urge surfing is acknowledging and accepting that I have a craving. I'm not trying to fight it. I'm not trying to push it away. I'm not trying to ignore it. I'm not trying to distract myself from it. I just decide to ride the wave until it passes. Because like every wave, there's a peak, like something triggers the wave or the craving. It peaks by itself and eventually it's going to crash. And most people, quote unquote, give in right at the peak of the wave, and it's going to pass anyways. So I can choose to either urge surf it, and we might want to do that if cravings are coming on really like if strong cravings are happening frequently. Because there's some research that suggests that the more frequently we eat a craved food, the more frequently we have cravings for that food, right? And you can see the loop here. The more we have cravings, the more we eat it, the more we eat it, the more we crave it. So if you're stuck in this constant cycle of strong and frequent cravings, urge surfing is quite difficult at first, but it's a way to reduce the frequency and intensity of those cravings. Okay, so I've said, I've got this craving for a chocolate that's an 8 or above. I can choose to urge surf it. I can choose maybe to swap it for something else if I think that will actually fill the craving. Maybe I want to have like a sugar-free hot chocolate or something, and that might hit the spot. And therefore I've gotten rid of the craving for 50 calories instead of 300.
I like a full sugar Coke to a Diet Coke.
Yeah, like exactly. If you're having a craving for a full sugar soft drink. Or I can just eat the damn food. And there's nothing wrong with eating the food. Especially if you think just a little bit of it, like a portion controlled amount, is going to get rid of the craving. It's not something that happens all the time. Like I'm not craving it multiple times a day.
This is when people can run into trouble also, though, if they're both a 1 on the hunger scale and now an 8 on the cravings thermometer. If you go and introduce that food at that time, when you've had no ability to also shut down the homeostatic hunger, there is the potential. It's going to be a lot more difficult to stop there.
Oh, you're saying if someone's like super, super hungry, like homeostatically hungry, and they have high cravings.
Yeah. That urge surfing, I would probably encourage momentarily, or you might move to like having a meal and then realigning and just saying, do I really still feel like an 8? Because again, if we refer back to the beginning of this podcast, homeostatic is going to be shut down in the presence of food, whereas the hedonic stuff theoretically will continue on.
Well,
until you go through these 3 options.
Yeah, I really like that point, because when you're feeling really homeostatically hungry and you have a high craving for chocolate, you're right. You're likely not going to eat 4 squares. You're likely going to have the whole block because you're starving and you have a craving. So this brings us to the point of why we eat. Okay, we can eat for emotional reasons because we're trying to self-soothe or we're anxious or whatever. And that's a story for another day, which is covered in the Better Bodies program as well, but not the topic of today. Maybe we're eating for social reasons. Maybe someone's invited you to dinner. You're not actually hungry, but look, they made you a dinner. Don't be an asshole. Maybe you're eating out of habit. Like as soon as you get home, you open the fridge. But the other reason is hunger. Right. So like we need to tackle all these things separately. And in the Better Bodies program, we have a habit change and body image management section, which covers that as well. But if we're just sticking to types of hunger today, and hunger is the reason we're eating, ask yourself, this is just pulling on the point that Dean made. Why am I eating? Am I homeostatically hungry, like physiologically hungry? If that's the case, what do we want to be eating, Dean?
Something that is relatively decent in food volume or size, but relatively lower in calories. Fewer calories for more total volume of food.
Yeah, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to squash homeostatic hunger. And if any food will do, why wouldn't we choose a food that aligns with our goals? We want to make it palatable enough. We don't want to hate it. But we want it to be, fruits or vegetables, lean proteins, maybe some starches.
Yeah, it needs to be palatable enough, like you said, but not so palatable that it drives more of that hedonic sort of drive.
Yeah.
And it also needs to be voluminous enough that it also starts to mechanically shut down hunger a little bit. But it doesn't need to be like astronomically high on the high volume, low calorie approach too. Because there's some feedback mechanisms around homeostatic hunger that are volume driven, how much food is in your stomach. And then it's also calorically driven. So like, what is the calorie value of that meal? And there was a movement for a while where people were making the lowest calorie possible foods for the largest amount of volume,
like
the most
protein fluff,
which was like using thickening agents and some protein powder, and we just try to fill the stomach up with as much food as possible,
but 20 calories,
or 2 liters of jelly, little diet jelly, or a kilo and a half of cucumber salad kind of thing. And what we know from that is that it works to an extent, but it doesn't work better than say 20% less or 30% less. because the calories
Volume.
are so low. Yeah, there's a disproportionate relationship from a natural food perspective where the volume of food is too high for the little amount of calories you consume. So yeah, you got to play the game of volume.
Eat
you don't
sensibly, and we don't have to overthink.
Yeah, you don't want to abuse it. You know.
Yeah, for sure. And if you still crave the chocolate after you've squashed the homeostatic hunger, it's so much easier to eat 4 squares. It's so much easier to portion control when you don't start starving.
Yeah.
You know, it's like going to the supermarket on a hungry stomach and coming home with like the entire biscuit aisle.
Yeah, don't go to the supermarket on a 1.
Do not go to the supermarket on a 1.
Or an 8 for the thermometer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. So because we're trying to keep this particular episode a little shorter, maybe we'll quickly summarize what we've spoken about.
Yeah, go for it.
So I think we can think about it in 3 different points. The first one is types of hunger. So when you decide you're hungry, what type of hungry are you? Is it a craving? Is it physical hunger, physiological hunger? Then we spoke about measuring hunger. If you decide you're one or the other, on the hunger scale, 5 being neutral, are you absolutely starving a 1? If so, maybe next time you should eat a little sooner, because we don't want to wait until we're absolutely starving to start eating, because it makes portion control much more difficult. It makes eating with mindfulness, like slowly without distraction, enjoying your food, much harder. It also makes wise choices more difficult, because when you're that hungry, you're like, just give me the closest thing, you know, and we don't want to eat to a 10. Then, you know, if you decide that it's a craving, is it 8 or above, or is it 6 or below? We've got options to urge surf. We've got options to make a wiser food swap, like lollies to fruit or something. By the way, frozen grapes, as if they're not lollies, they're fucking delicious.
All fruit is lollies.
How good is frozen
All fruit
grapes?
is lollies.
Yeah, it's good.
Lollies? They're not actually. Appear to be like, they're like nature's lollies.
Well, I call blueberries nature's Skittles, because each, like, one's a little sour, one's a little sweet, one like. And then some pop, some are, they're good. They're good. You don't know what you're getting. And the third option is just to eat the damn food. You know?
Which is perfectly reasonable to do.
Fine. And the third thing we spoke about is sort of like why we eat, I suppose. Like, if you are feeling one type of hungry, then that's going to guide your decision. If I'm physiologically hungry, I'm not going to eat chocolate. Why wouldn't I make a wiser choice?
At least not yet.
Yeah. If I am hedonically hungry for chocolate, I'm probably not going to choose broccoli, because that's not going to squash the craving.
I think there's one caveat to this, which we maybe haven't discussed, and this is going to be individually specific too, though, is that you do also need to be somewhat cautious about having the craving-based food immediately after the meal that you've consumed to basically squash the homeostatic hunger.
Okay.
I think a little bit of time is sometimes good for some individuals, depending on what your kind of control is like, because we talked about that meal to squash homeostatic hunger being voluminous enough and low calorie or calorie controlled enough that you feel full, and palatable enough that you enjoy it, but not so palatable that you want to eat lots of it.
Yeah.
And sometimes my experience, at least from a personal perspective, I'll talk of here, is that you can have the high volume, calorie controlled, reasonably tasty meal and be quite satisfied. And then the moment you add in that highly palatable food that's lower volume, it kind of ticks up the want to eat more.
Okay.
But this is just a great opportunity again for you to check in with yourself and say, hey, this is clearly clearly hedonic. Like, it's not homeostatic because I'm full, but it's the palatability of the really, really delicious thing afterwards. It kind of works like the dessert that sometimes can just kind of be like, ooh, I want some more.
It could be habitual eating.
Yeah. So just be mindful of the fact that if you're going to change like that sensory sort of feedback, like going from reasonably tasty to very salty or very sweet, or a combination of both, that there may be this little uptick moment. But again, that's when you can practice urge surfing anyway.
Yeah.
There's always an option to manage this.
Yeah. And I would never say to myself, oh, I'm not going to eat the chocolate. I would say to myself, I'm just going to wait 20 minutes and see if I still want it just as much.
Yeah.
And that makes it so much easier, because it's not never, it's not now.
Yeah. It's goody.
Yeah. And it might actually end up being never, but it just makes never so much easier, because you don't want it as much in 20 minutes.
Yeah. And the more frequently you do that, the easier it becomes.
Yeah. Okay. So our sequence of questions from here goes less shit tip, because we know that the tagline of this podcast is how to be less shit. So we want to leave you with a less shit tip. You want to go, or shall I?
Yeah, no. Less shit tip from me would be to slow down your eating.
Okay.
I think too many people consume food at a rapid rate because everyone's in a hurry. And I mentioned before that part of that feedback on the homeostatic hunger is volume driven or mechanistic in the stomach. And that means that needs time to register. So eat slower. Whatever you do now, the easiest way to do this is just to chew everything twice as much as what you typically do.
Okay.
It's also, you probably find your digestion will be a lot better too, because you're preparing that stomach for that there food.
You could even like set a timer and like, I'm not going to finish this meal until 15 or 20 minutes is up, something like that. Or you could swallow your food, take a couple breaths before you put more food back on your spoon or your chopsticks or your whatever.
Yeah, it's another great one. Put the spoon or the fork or the knife down between each mouthful. Force yourself to chew more, as opposed to going fork in mouth, chew once, fork in mouth, chew once, swallow, repeat.
If you're trying to gain weight,
do the opposite.
This is still a good advice, but yeah, the opposite.
Yeah, you also still want to chew your food exceptionally well when you're trying to gain weight, so you don't have digestive issues. So
yeah, it's true. But maybe you want to eat a little faster, choose more palatable foods.
See, practice good eating hygiene, all of the stuff that you would learn if you were watching Downton Abbey.
Which is something Dean and I have been, we've been doing an episode most nights.
Yeah.
And God, a lot's happened. There's been murders and rapes and cheating, and it's intense.
Lots of dinners.
Lots of fancy dinners.
What do they call lunch? Lots of luncheons.
Luncheons. Oh, luncheon is served.
Prepare the food for the luncheon.
It annoys me every time they say luncheon. I'm like, shut the fuck up.
My name is now Lord.
Lord Dean. Okay. Something, not something we're sharing. We just did that, didn't we?
No, we just did less shit tip. You're up.
Oh yeah, it is something we're sharing.
You got something we're sharing? It's something I prepared earlier.
I don't want to share with you like the coolest pastiche place in Lagos, which by the way is
never in no place, because it's actually in Lisboa.
Oh, sorry, Lisboa. It is true. Portuguese tarts, like custard tarts, are called pastiche. Well, pastel is the single tart. Pastiche is like the plural word.
So pastel.
I don't want to share that with you because like you're not in Portugal. You can't. I'm going to share something with you that's actually useful, but not as tasty. I am a big fan of listening to podcasts or like educational stuff on YouTube or whatever on 1.5 speed, because sometimes people talk so damn slow that my mind starts to wander. I'm like, today, Junior. And I can make a 20-minute thing, like 15 minutes, 10 minutes if it's double time or something like that. And I much prefer it. I tend to put things off a little less because I'm like, hey, it's only 10 minutes.
Yeah, as opposed to 15.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my something worth sharing. Give it a go. Podcasts, YouTube stuff, listen to things on 1.5 times.
Can I give a less shit tip in relation to your something worth sharing?
Okay.
If you're a listener and you send friends, family, or anyone voice notes, do it on WhatsApp, not on Instagram.
Oh, because you can speed it up on WhatsApp.
Because you can speed it up on WhatsApp. Don't force your peoples to listen to you at one speed.
I also found that on WhatsApp, you can scroll through the voice note. If you're like, oh, I missed that part, I'll go back 10 seconds. I think on Instagram, you have to listen to it to the end and start again.
You do, and it's annoying.
It's so annoying.
So
annoying. All right, Dean, I think we are wrapping this bad boy up. How do we do for time? I haven't been counting, but
we've got to do a would you rather.
I think we nailed it. Okay, what would you rather, Dean? You ask me or me ask you?
All right. So as you know, I'm considering trying to get a tattoo of some description in most countries, if not all countries.
Okay.
That we visit.
Dean currently has one small tattoo on his hand.
That could be a really, really silly commitment. But I definitely want some more on my hand, right? And potentially forearm. So in light of that, I'm going to say, Liz.
Yes.
Would you rather, WYR, would you rather have a really cool and exceptionally well done tattoo on your neck that is visible 90% of the time, or have 10 really bad tattoos in various places over your body?
How big are the bad tattoos?
The minimum size would be like if someone did that.
A 50-cent coin.
This is beautiful, like
the OK sign with their fingers.
Beautiful with their fingers, yeah. Or like a bon appetito.
Like you're touching your index finger to your thumb. Okay, so that's
going to be like 2 50-cent pieces at least. That's the size.
How big are your hands? It's 1 50-cent piece. Jesus.
It's definitely 2 on mine.
It's not. It's what? Anyway.
So yeah, they're both poorly done as in the quality, and they're also average as fuck tattoos. Like they're like a Southern Cross. Yeah. Which would you prefer?
Oh, how big is the neck tattoo?
The same size. It's the double 50.
Oh, fuck. Oh.
Like the Reuben tattoo that we've got.
That size.
Yeah. But also that's a cool as fuck tattoo.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
I'm going to go 10 shit tattoos on my body.
Really?
Because it's easier to hide. But also I feel like in professional or fancy situations, a neck tattoo is like, yeah, it doesn't quite fit in.
Have you noticed whenever I do Would You Rathers, it requires a discussion of like 10 to 15 seconds at least to trying to clarify both what the Would You Rather is?
But when I ask a question, I'm like, no questions, Dean,
Yeah.
just answer it.
Would you rather be bummed or would you rather be
Or do the bumming.
Like, oh. It's true.
Yeah, I'm choosing 10 shit body tattoos. Not that like it's important to me to fit in, but I just, think I'd prefer.
I'd go the one.
And I also like.
But I think I can get away with it more as a male, unfortunately.
You
male
would.
with a beard who's got some muscle, not a lot of muscle anymore, because now I'm a hobby builder.
No,
right?
that's not true. I doubt you've lost much. No,
I
I like to dress up sometimes, but I also like to look like a bum. And then there's plenty of in between casual outfits that I have as well. And I think a neck tattoo means that I can't experiment with different styles as much because I don't know. I don't see a neck tattoo really going well with like a sequined frock.
You just need to be a regal lady with like a neck thing on.
Or one of the
top
neck
all the
scarves.
times. Well, one either scarves or like the
Oh, a turtleneck.
Yeah, but not an actual like a cool one.
Turtleneck's cool.
Not like a Ross Geller one from Friends.
A Ross Geller turtleneck. Oh, if there's anyone who's cool, it's
like you want a Joey turtleneck.
Yeah.
It's the same turtleneck, but it just looks cool because it's on Joey.
It's true. It's true. Dean, if you could have dinner with one Friends main character, who would you have dinner with?
Definitely not Joey because he eats all the food.
Yeah, he does.
He'd be the worst.
And he doesn't share. I like picking food off people's plates.
I would. Who's cooked the dinner? Have we cooked it?
Oh no, you're going out to dinner because obviously you would choose Monica.
So definitely not Monica then, because she would also then critique the food. I couldn't handle Phoebe for that long.
I love Phoebe so much.
Which leaves me with
Phoebe's my
Ross
spirit
and
animal.
Rachel, right?
Okay.
I'm just going to go with Rachel because I think it would be neutral and I can just enjoy my meal. She'd probably share because she doesn't want to gain any more weight.
She's always eating the salad. Well, I think based off your, what's it called? Like you're removing people because you don't like them. I might agree that Joey would eat all the food. Monica would be too critical. I think Rachel, unless she wants something out of you, I'm not sure she'd be that interesting to talk to, is the vibe I get from Rachel. I'm going Ross because he's intelligent and interesting. I'm not particularly interested in dinosaurs, but I feel like you'd have like really interesting things to share with you.
Though.
Yeah, I'm okay with goofball. That's fine. I'm not trying to marry the guy. It's a dinner, you know?
He'd probably show up in the same jumper as you. Like he did in that episode.
I love it. All right, guys, that is a wrap. I hope you found something valuable from this episode. Check out Better Bodies if you think that it's something that might suit you. The goal is to create sustainable transformations, to teach you the things that you need to know in order to do the things that you need to do
and you can
get to where you want to be.
Yeah, and you can jump in anytime.
Yeah.
So there's no start dates or anything like that. You get crank into the content straight away. We drip feed the content over a period of time.
We have a live call once a month,
which everyone is welcome to join.
You can ask questions on the videos whenever. Any questions you want, and a coach will get back to you. And
basically, it's awesome.
Basically,
yeah,
it's basically set up for awesomeness. We will see you in the next episode.
Thanks very much for listening, everyone.
Bye.
See ya.